am incredibly excited to introduce you to the co-founders of Sakara Life as they take us through their journey of how they turned $700 into a $150 million a year business. Jason Pfeiffer, editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur, overall legend, part of the Founder Made family at this point. He will be leading the conversation. Jason, it's always so great to have you.
Great, Julia, always great to be here. Thank you so much. I apologize to everybody for not having the cool background. I tried it and it was like cutting parts of my face off. And so we just decided to go with a guy hanging out in his bedroom talking to some amazing founders. So that is the role I'm playing. But I'm very excited to welcome Danielle and Whitney, who you will see momentarily, co-founders of Sakara Life. While they show up, I will tell you Sakara Life is a 100% plant-based, organic, ready-to-eat meals company. I am just going to read a little bit from your website so we level set what we're talking about here. The Sakara Life organic meal delivery program is based on a whole food, but whole life, sure. Whole food, plant-rich diet that includes fresh, nutrient-dense, and delicious ingredients. Our nutritional pillars form the basis of each and every meal that comes to your door. Danielle and Whitney, such a delight to talk to you guys today.
So excited to be here. Thanks, Jason.
Hi, Jason. Happy to be hanging out with you in your bedroom today.
Yeah, welcome. It's a big party in my bedroom. We'll see how many people we can fit. This is a Brooklyn bedroom, so don't have expectations of square footage. So let's start with the personal story, because that is where Sakara Life begins. It was a very personal story of both of your own health struggles, which led you on this mission. And I'd like to spend some time during our conversation talking about taking personal mission and turning it into a brand, and then also growing that so that it becomes, the mission and is open up to your customers, right? I think that a concern that a lot of people should have as they enter a company or build a company off of their own personal mission is that at some point it has to stop just being about them and it has to start being about the customer. So I think getting into that will be really interesting, but let's just start with your own experiences. Can you take us back to the beginning of Sakara Life and how this started with such a personal mission?
Sure. So it's been 10 years, and Whitney and I have known each other since we were kids. We were both living in New York City together. I was studying medicine, and we both hit rock bottoms health-wise. Whitney suffered from cystic acne from the time we were, maybe preteens, 12, 13. I was suffering from body dysmorphia, issues with connection to my plate, and just disordered eating patterns. And we hit rock bottom, luckily around the same time. I wasn't alone down there. We turned to food as medicine. I was at the time, as I said, studying medicine and learning about nutrigenomics and epigenetics and the impact that your food and your environment has on your biology and your physiology and your DNA. And so we decided to go back to our roots. We were from Sedona, Arizona, understanding the importance of mind-body food medicine. And we built a food program based on 9 very important nutrition pillars, which I won't go into because it would take the whole hour. And it completely transformed our lives. It wasn't a business at the time, but the transformation was swift and faster than I think we could have ever imagined, and was so meaningful that we thought if we could change one other person's life, that'd be really cool. And so we started with one person, and that person turned into 5. And then here we are 10 years later, and we're serving people all over the United States except Hawaii and Alaska. So we deliver to every zip code. And yeah, we have over 200 employees and have a mission to help give the tools to people to sit in the driver's seat of their own health.
An amazing story. And I want to dig into something you just said there. So I love your idea here, the way that you present it. Look, it's about changing lives, and that happens on an individual basis. And can you, as an object lesson in growing a brand out of a mission, look, the first 2 lives you were trying to change were your own, obviously. And then after that, you're trying to add one at a time. How did you start thinking through, okay, we have a solution for us. Now we have a solution for some. Now we have a solution for many. What did you have to do to think through what you had built and the mission and the way that you talk about that mission as it scaled?
I think it was about getting down to the root cause. And Danielle might have a different answer than I have with this, but we each had very different health struggles, and yet we found the same solution which was getting back to what does true health and nutrition look like? What does modern cutting edge nutrition science say? What does ancient wisdom and nutritional technologies that people have been using for thousands of years say? And where do those overlap? Because what we were seeing was what Danielle was learning in school, and some of these ancient wisdoms that we were raised with growing up in Sedona had a lot of overlap. And so we put those together and it completely changed our lives, and people noticed and wanted to experience it for themselves. And we saw that they had different problems and it started solving their problems as well. And so while the issues were all different, the solution was the same. And so how we had to communicate that was about getting down to the root cause of lifestyle disease, I would say. Things impacted by our lifestyle. While Danielle was working at St. Luke's Hospital with a cardiologist, she was seeing patients come in with heart disease, type 2 diabetes, these late stage lifestyle diseases. And the entire medical system was focused on treating the disease with pharmaceuticals or surgery. And nobody was focused on telling people how to stay healthy or how to change their lifestyle to reverse their disease or prevent disease in the future. And so we saw this huge white space here focused on wellness. People weren't talking about wellness 10 years ago, and a need. And so it was about taking our needs and seeing that there were thousands, millions of needs similar out in the world and providing that solution to them.
Oh, sorry. No, please go.
I'm just going to add that, from a purely scientific perspective, it's about solving core nutritional imbalances and healing the gut. And that is true for every human on the planet. I mean, specifically Americans, I think it's 8, maybe even 9 out of 10 Americans don't get even enough vegetables. So, the baseline is actually really difficult to do every single day for yourself. But in terms of creating a company to solve those issues, easy.
Right. So a word that's been used a lot by all of us here, mission. Sometimes people use the word mission and the word passion somewhat interchangeably, but I know that you guys feel strongly that these are two very, very different things, and one you build a company off of and one you don't. Can you dive into that?
Yeah, I can start. I don't know. We were raised thinking oh, you find your passion and then that's your career. And now, this kind of realization didn't come to us until later on after building Sakara. But, if you had asked me what my passion was, I never wanted to talk about my insecurities around my body or my relationship to food. That was not my passion. In fact, that was the last thing I wanted to do. And so passion tends to, I think of it more as things you enjoy doing, hobbies and things like that. I think the reason Sakara has been as successful as it has is because it's in service and we are delivering on our mission. And that mission is so much bigger than what I enjoy doing. And in fact, you end up finding many passions within your mission. Hopefully that's the gift. But our core belief is that when you are in service, you are enacting on your mission, then the passion is born out of that versus trying to build a business off of something you just happen to love doing.
Right. You might have a passion for knitting and you can turn that into a business, but really the mission is what's going to keep you going every day, because building a business is really hard, really, really hard. And there are days that you want to give up, and there are days that the struggles are just too much. And for us, it was getting in testimonials on those days that said, you're changing my life. I've searched for the solution and I couldn't find it. And then I found you and you've saved my life. And we're like, well, shit, we got to keep going. There's no giving up when you have a mission to accomplish.
Whitney, the knitting example is a really good one, though I'm going to take the role of the knitter right now and say, well, okay, what if my passion is knitting, but my mission is to bring great knitting to people, or is to teach people how to knit, which is a way of asking you both, do you have any advice for people who maybe feel confused about whether it's a passion or a mission, or how to fulfill it, or whether or not this thing that I have a passion for can be a mission or is the right mission for a company? How do you start to pick those things apart?
I think it's what Danielle said about being in service.
In service and getting uncomfortable. Like Whitney never wanted to talk about her skin. I never want to talk about my issues, but it was actually bringing light to those shadow sides of ourselves that was the act of allowed us to be in the act of service. So it's certainly not that your passion can't be a business. It's that the likelihood of success, because of the amplitude of experiences and emotions and ups and downs, is so intense that you need to have something so much bigger than a passion to keep you going. And so, yeah, I'd say ask yourself, like, is this pulling me out of my comfort zone? Is there a true worldwide need for this? Am I in service to something? And then you can find your passion within that, of course.
Yeah. What problem are you solving? Are you solving the problem that people are depressed and knitting can create, release endorphins and create real happiness? And so your mission is to spread happiness through knitting. And your goal is to get 1 million people knitting for happiness. I don't know what it is, but then
we love knitters.
Yeah, this is a workshop on how to launch a knitting startup.
In those moments, though, where your yarn hasn't shown up and your knitting needles are the wrong size and everything is just going wrong, you have a reason to keep going. And that has been one of the biggest keys to success for us personally and in our business, is having that reason every single day to continue to succeed. Yeah. Because I will say, I think a big piece of success is just stamina, the ability to get back up when you get knocked down, when you have 1,000 people telling you no, when they tell you you should change the name of your company, nobody's going to remember what Sakara is. We're like, one day they will remember it and they will also pronounce it correctly. So, it's those moments and that mission that keeps us motivated.
I will admit that on the document that I wrote up for myself of notes for this, I phonetically wrote out the name of the company, so I did not mistake it. So that is interesting. That was not just a thing that I was worried about. Actually, wait, I'm gonna come back to that, because I want to talk about growth and the grassroots growth that you guys have had. But I have one more mission question, and then we'll talk about how people were confused about how to pronounce your name. In the mission question is this: I've been fascinated in the conversations that I've had with mission-driven companies about how they all, in some way or another, have to wrestle with how forward to be about the mission, right? Because a mission is great, and a mission. Let's step away from Sakara for a second, and we'll talk about, for example, I remember once I talked to this guy who had started a t-shirt line, and the t-shirt line, he had some charitable something built into it, and the mission of the company was to save the whales, whatever it was, and he found that people would buy it once and then never again, because they didn't need that many t-shirts, and maybe it wasn't a very good t-shirt to begin with. And that what he learned was that it's got to be about the product first. People have to love the product, and then the mission can come second. Now, you have a company where really the mission and the product are very interwoven, but at the same time, if you made a bad product, people would say, well, thanks for your passion and mission, but I'm going to go somewhere else. So talk to me about, as you've grown this and as you've been so mission oriented, how you balance the way that you communicate what the product is. And is it product first? Is it about amazingly tasty food, or is it about how this fits into your lifestyle? How have you found that balance, and has that evolved over time?
I would say that our mission has been the same since we started. And our, coming from the diet background, I wanted to make sure people never felt like they were on a diet. So joy is within our mission statement. And, I think delivering on that mission has been, it's so intertwined in the product. Like there's no mission without the product, and quality and delivering on, it's a huge promise. We're promising to help you transform your life. And so there are lots of decisions that we make that actually consumers never really know about. And that's why I always tell people, like, ask questions, ask companies questions, ask away. Don't worry about being that person, because they should have good answers for you. And there are a lot of decisions that the consumer will never see. We tend to go forward with things that people understand. So things like organic, things like getting enough leafy greens, but there's a million other things. Like, I can tell you it's a lot cheaper to get, canola oil for your salad dressing than it is to get the highest quality olive oil that we put in every single meal. Do we lead with that? No, that's just something like that's really important to us. And we know from, a scientific perspective, especially, that it's really important to your transformation and to your long-term transformation. So there are lots of things that we don't lead with. But I'd say we try and anchor on the things that we believe people will be most attuned to, most appreciative of. That idea of getting consumer credit, because there's a long list of things that we do that we don't necessarily share.
Yeah, and I think for us, we're lucky enough that our mission centers around our client, our customer. And so the better we can do on furthering our mission, the happier that customer is going to be. And so for us, the mission and the business goals are aligned most of the time. I'd say maybe somewhere where we have to choose mission over business or client is when it comes down to our nutrition. Our meals, our nutrition program contains a lot of leafy greens. You're getting 6 cups of leafy greens every single day. Now, Jason, you might say, I don't like leafy greens. I'd rather just eat your, mushroom truffle pasta and your red burger every day and not have the salads. And we would say, look, ultimately, we're promising you transformation. We're promising you health. We're, helping you through to the other side to change your body, change your health, change your life. And so we have to stay committed to the things that are going to get you there, which is the 6 cups of leafy greens. And so, I'd say it's little trade-offs like that we do have to make with our mission and business. But most of the time, it's the better we can service our client, the closer we're going to be to achieving our mission.
For what it's worth, I just want to state on the record, I am pro leafy green. I'm not going to turn down the leafy greens. It's good advice. So let's talk about growth. And I know you guys did not go out and raise $4 bazillion in venture capital and then pour it all into radical growth. You really grew this from a grassroots level. Why did you choose that? And what did you learn starting from that standpoint?
Yeah, so we actually were doing over $2 million in revenue before raising a single dollar. And what that did was it forced us to create a business that really works. It forced us to think about return on investment the same way that the ladies were talking about in the last panel, about weighing short-term ROI with long-term investments, and ultimately gave us the opportunity to learn a lot about our customer, dig in, have a bit more time to work on the product, gain those insights, and develop before we had the pressure to just, make it perfect and spend millions of dollars in marketing with other people involved. I think one thing that people don't realize when they're raising money is a VC is a business. They're not an investor. They're a business with investors behind them, right? And they have a business model to return dollars to their investors. And so they need to put the dollars into work in your company, raise the valuation, and extract their dollars to return it. And so your business model has to align with their business model, their timelines, their returns. And if it doesn't, it puts a lot of pressure on the company, a lot of pressure on the founders and the management. And so, it gave us the ability to learn, adjust, mistakes along the way before having another business involved.
And also, deliver on our promise. I mean, I remember early on, we would have conversations like, we're not willing to, increase gross margin here just for the sake of increasing gross margin. We're gonna do the expensive olive oil and not the canola oil. And those are really key choices that were really and still are really important, and that integrity is really important to us. So it meant, not only finding the right investors, but finding investors that believed in that mission with us.
Right. Well, Danielle, that the oil example is a great one that reminds me of the name, which is to say, I wonder how many things do you feel like you were able to maintain control of that you might have gotten pushed off of had you brought too many, so to speak, cooks into the kitchen too early? Because it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you chose a slower, more controlled growth at the beginning, you were able to maintain more control over the vision of the company than you might have otherwise had you handed over a lot of control to a bunch of investors early.
Yeah, and I think it allowed us to gain a lot of consumer trust over the past decade. We haven't been paying people to eat our food, so we then acquire people who genuinely value what we do and are seeking what we do, which then from a long-term portfolio look, it's like our clients are going to stick around a lot longer because we've been acquiring the right ones over time.
Talk to me about growth. Talk to me about shifting from a slow growth startup mentality, as we were just talking about, to a fast growth mentality. That requires not just thinking differently about the logistics of your business, but probably, I would imagine, thinking differently about yourselves as leaders of a business. You go from being leaders of a small company to being leaders of a very large company. How has that evolution been for you, and what lessons do you have for folks who might be at that kind of tipping point?
Yeah, I think this is something we talk about every single day, that we're still learning. And every day you have to learn, you have to grow, you have to level up. And I think having a growth mindset is one of the things that has played such a huge role in our success and our ability to go from where we were to where we are today, and hopefully into the future as well. So one, seeking out feedback from each other, Danielle and I giving each other feedback, asking for feedback from those around us, our investors, our board, our employees, our team, so that we can get better, and so that we have that open conversation about where we're going and how we can improve. Seeing challenges as opportunities for growth. If every single time we hit a roadblock, we were like, oh man, this is never gonna work, what are we gonna do? We would have stopped years ago. And so having that outlook of like, all right, this is just another problem we're gonna get through today, and there's always an answer and always a solution, has really allowed us to grow and make it forward. I would say it's a lot of personal development work every single day.
Danielle, before you chime in, Whitney, can I push you to tell a specific challenge, or like something that you didn't see coming, that you had to really step back and reevaluate either something you guys were doing in the business or something more personal about how you were thinking about leadership?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say one story that comes to mind that was this time where we had rapid growth. We were trying to hire on more people onto our team as quickly as possible, show up into the kitchen, and there was not enough staff to complete the job. It was like our main head chef and like 2 other people. And I asked one of the girls who was there, brand new, all right, so can you cook? And she said, no, I was just hired to put things into the bags. And I'm like, all right, well, today you're gonna cook. Come over here, here's a knife. We're gonna put you on the easiest thing, which is making a kale salad. So show her how to roll up the kale, slice it into nice little ribbons, chiffonade, and I go away to do something else. she comes over and she says, I'm done, come back. And to check her work, she has the bowl of cut kale there in front of it. I pull it up and it was like one of those snowflakes you made as a kid in school where it has all the holes in it, but it's all in one entire piece. And I kid you not, went into the walk-in refrigerator and cried and called he's my husband now, but boyfriend at the time, and was like, we need help, just, come. And he was out having drinks at the Standard Hotel, brought some of his friends with him. They all put on aprons and got in there and did it. And, I think that's like, we could have quit in that moment, I think. And it was about getting scrappy, getting vulnerable, asking for help, having that drive, that mission of whatever happens, we're going to get through this. And we did. And luckily that's, many years in the rearview mirror. But I think it's moments like that still kind of haunt me, a little bit of PTSD, but are a reminder of like, if we can get through those types of things and deliver on our promise, we can get through anything.
Danielle, we've only got about 2 minutes left, but as you hear that, as you heard the prompt I had, what comes to mind for lessons learned?
Yeah, it's funny you gave that example, Whit, because I was going to say, I think being willing to do any job in the company, and I mean any job, it's the number one piece of advice I could give. And I saw somebody ask about scaling org chart. It gives you all the tools to know who you need to hire, to know what skills you need to solve for, to be able to step in and join your teammates when they need you, to be able to answer questions. And I will tell you that even as you scale, it sounds scary and it sounds like there's going to be all these new problems. It's the same stuff, it's just bigger. And so the things that Whitney and I learned when we were running the kitchen for the first 3 years are still relevant today, even though we have over 100,000 square feet of production facilities. So, being willing to just do anything, we call it putting on the chicken suit. You do whatever it takes, and it arms you with the skills that you need to not only be a leader, hopefully we're a good leader, but also to solve real problems.
Yeah, and I think the advice for scaling your org chart while scaling a business, when you're smaller, you need a bunch of people who are just smart and hungry and humble and willing to get in there with you, roll up their sleeves and, do whatever job it is. And as you grow, you start to need more specialized people on the team, but who still carry those same values, I think is really important. And advice of like, get great people around you too. Seek out mentors, talk to other business owners, build your community. People, you're not the only one going through all of this. Other people are going through it or have been through it. And so joining into that community and having those conversations will help you out.
Yeah, and I would just add to that to not avoid tough conversations, right? It's really easy to avoid them. But as you're scaling HR, you want to there's going to be weird transitions. Just have the conversation so it's not awkward and weird.
I would just let you guys bounce back and forth with great tips forever. But alas, I'm going to keep to the schedule. And so say, Danielle, Whitney, thank you so much for all of this great insight, for hanging out with me in my bedroom, for promoting leafy greens, and for changing lives. This has been a pleasure.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.